Hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. We're excited to have you with us today. My name is Laura Walker. I'm the Director of ITSM Advocacy here at StrataCom. And today's presentation is going to be focused on Jira Service Management software. We're going to give you a full tour of the major features and functionality of this software. We'd like to invite you to ask questions as we go along. Feel free to put those either in the Q&A tab or the chat tab. We'll be having our presenter today pause throughout to take questions as we go. We'll leave the line open at the end for questions too. We're also recording, so if you'd like to rewatch the session or share with others, we'll be happy to share out the links with you after. Before we get going, I'd like to give a quick overview of Atlassian as a company and JSM as a product, just in case it's your first look and you're unfamiliar with the organization. Give me one moment to get my screen sharing here. Who we are. So as I mentioned, I work for StrataCom. We're an Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner. We were founded in 1997. We've always focused on IT service management, working with a lot of the big, well-known players in the space. As of the last 5 or 6 years, Atlassian has become one of the big players in the IT service management space. So they're one of our newer partnerships. As a company, we focus on professional services. We've got a large consulting team located across the country focused on ITSM. A lot of our people have been with us since the late 90s, early 2000s, so very senior staff of consultants located here in the US. We also have some add-on apps for JSM, mobile barcoding solutions, some dashboards and asset management widgets and so forth. But ITSM is really what we do. So we're excited to give you a tour of our news partnership today. Atlassian in a snapshot. Atlassian was founded in 2002 in Sydney, Australia, and they're best known for their Jira, their DevOps solution, widely implemented across 80% of the Fortune 500. You've probably heard of it if you're not using it already. But Atlassian actually has 15 different product lines and solutions, with IT service management being one of the newer ones. They've also got 5,000 plus marketplace apps, over 700 partners global worldwide, 8,000 employees. So they're definitely one of the biggest software vendors out there in IT today. This is one of my favorite slides to show you, especially any of you who may be coming from Sharewell. What's included with Jira Service Management? It's one of the first questions we get when people are looking for a new solution. So all major ITSM modules are included with your purchase of a Jira Service Management license, including asset management, as long as your premium package or above. With Sharewell and some other tools, asset management's often priced separate, but you do get that, including Discovery and CMDB with JSM. It's got out-of-box seamless integration with Microsoft Teams and Slack. It also has an AI virtual agent your user base can use to communicate with. It now includes Ops Genie for network monitoring, alerting, mass notifications. It's a competitor of PagerDuty. So if any of you are using Ops Genie or PagerDuty already, you could discontinue paying separately. This is something you'd get with JSM. It includes a native mobile client, iOS and Android both, and 300 plus templates that you can download and install and start using on day one, including HR service management, facilities management, integrations, so forth. A lot of these templates, again, are something that you would pay for separately if you were to buy an ITSM solution with a different vendor. So this shows how you can extend service management beyond just IT to accomplish true enterprise service management. The modules and functionality out of box you get will do service management for IT, HR, facilities, legal, and so much more. JSM is low code, no code workflow editor, drag and drop interface. They've got that centralized global service catalog. And as I mentioned, again, all those templates that you get to get you really up and running quick. Here is the current ITSM landscape. As of the last Gartner report that came out, you can see, as we all know, ServiceNow is in the upper right in the leader space where they've been for a while. BMC is there as well. And Atlassian is placed very favorably in the upper right quadrant as well. And you can see they're actually placed stronger in strategy than ServiceNow. So very robust solution, very strong on strategy, offering a lot of capability for you out of box. I can get my slide to advance. This is the obligatory customer logo slide. So you probably see a lot of recognizable household names here. These are just some of the many companies that are using Jira Service Management across the globe. So with that, I'd like to get into our demonstration since that's what everyone's actually here to see. I'll turn it over to our principal JSM consultant, Bill Renfro. Bill's been with us since we were founded. He's one of our founding owners from 1997. So he's got great expertise in the ITSM space and with the JSM product line as well. So again, would love to invite you to ask questions along the way. I can interrupt Bill as we're going for questions. And I hope the tour is really helpful for you today. Whenever you're ready, Bill, it's all yours.
I already took over the screen share. So good morning, everyone. We're going to just get into it right away here. Jira Service Management is, as Laura said, taken a lot of market share in the last few years. It's become really robust and an enterprise-wide tool. And when we start talking with people who are familiar with Jira, a lot of the time they're familiar with Jira software. And the tools are quite a bit different, even though they share like the same underlying engine for most things. So when we start talking through things, I'd like to start with some terminology. So in Jira software, you can have projects where, maybe you're upgrading a system and it's a 6-week project and you close out the project at the end. JSM also has the concept of projects, but a project is persistent. You keep using the same one just for different service areas. So as you can see on the screen right now, I have my IT support project, I have an HR project, I've got a mobile development project. And this is just where these service groups work their tickets. And of course, we have teams within those projects. But when we do these demos, I like to start where customers start. So if I'm a customer and I have a problem and I need to contact the help desk, I can start at the portal. Each of those projects has a portal area. So as you can see, the service desk one here, I've got a couple options. I can chat with the virtual service agent. We'll come back to that in a minute. I've got some sticky knowledge. If I want, I can go in here and try to do some self-help. But if that isn't going to do what I need, I can just click raise a request. And now I've got what we call portal groups. They're just some logical groupings of different kinds of requests. So I'll go to common requests and I'm going to just choose get IT help, which is just basically a generic type of request. So I'm submitting it for me. I'm going to say computer fan is making noise. I'll put the details in here. You'll notice as I select things, I could select some of the software down here, but it's not really applicable in this case. If I select critical, other things become visible. The form designer that sits behind this is actually really powerful and really fast to build things with. Prior to working with JSM, I spent a lot of time working in Sharewell as well as BMC Remedy, and to publish a form in either of those could take, the most simple form from start to finish could be up to an hour. BMC was kind of the same way. In JSM, I can use a template and publish a form in like minutes. So all of this is really easy to configure. I'll just put this back to medium. And now I can go ahead and just submit my ticket. And let's say once the ticket's submitted, I get a view of it. And let's say this problem is keeping me from working and my boss wants to know what's up with it. So I can just go add what we call request participants. So I can hit share over here. I can add my boss, Elena. And now Elena would be notified every time this ticket is updated, as well as being able to comment on this. As a customer, I've got a couple other things over here. If it's something not urgent, like maybe I just put in a standard request for something, I could turn notifications off. If it's been a couple days, I can escalate this ticket, or if I figured it out on my own, I could just cancel or resolve. So working tickets from the customer side is very easy. Let's go put in one more just to start with. So we'll go back to our portal. So I'm going to do workplace software and business solutions, and I'm going to report a bug. I found a bug in some software. And I'm not going to get too detailed here because this is a demo. I put the details down here. I'd probably attach a screenshot if necessary, and I can just send that in. And I'm going to come back to that as we get into like how stuff is built later on, but just to show you how easy it was to add these things. And again, I have the same options. Up in the top corner, I've got some other options. I can see all of my requests that are out here. I can do some basic filtering, like show open, show close, that kind of stuff. You'll also notice it said approvals. If you work in Jira Service Management and you're a manager and you only do approvals, you're not working tickets because that's, your team below you that's working tickets. You do not actually need a license. So I can go in here and approve or decline this request without having a license. And that's really nice. That has saved some of our customers a bunch of licensing cost. It doesn't apply to everyone, of course, but being able to just approve it from the portal is very easy, very intuitive, and much like other applications, we can set these approval rules to be complex or simple. We'll get back to that in a bit. Let's now go take a look at one more thing. I'm now at the top level of the Help Center. So I could publish this out on my corporate, website or whatever. And when I get here, I would see all of the different service areas. So I've got the service desk, I've got facilities and HR, etc. I've got a useful link up here that gives me a link to all the current major outages. So I could take a look at that. Maybe I see there's a problem and, I say, oh, I've already seen this problem, so we don't have to put in another ticket. Or, and I mentioned a second ago, we're going to get back to this. I could go find my virtual service agent. Now this is new. This is still in beta, actually. I've been burned more than once in demos by things changing between the time I set them up and the time that I went to demo them. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time if something doesn't work in here, but it's really promising what this is doing. So let's do a couple different examples. So I want to find out what the holidays are for 2025. And let's say our office has 2 locations, one in California and one in Texas. So I'll just say I need to know the 2025 holidays. And now behind the scenes, it's doing a couple things. It's looking at my knowledge base and the articles that I have generated. And it's trying to match what my intent is. So you can see right here, it's listing these, and then I've got links to my 2 knowledge articles that are out there. So if I go to these, I can see, hey, there's the holidays, so I don't have to request these off because we're already closed, right? Very simple, very easy to understand. We can do other types of requests in here too. Now, most companies at this point of any size have got an internal password reset tool, right? You forget how to do your password, you just go to the website. Usually there's a text message or something involved to verify your identity, and you don't need intervention with a human. So now are you looking for reset Windows password? I'll say yes. And what this has done on the back end is matched an intent, and then there's a defined pathway, right? So in offices for customers I've worked with, a lot of them, if you were in the office and local, you could just reset it yourself. If you're on the VPN, you couldn't. So I'll say in office local, and it just gives me a link to the password reset tool. It keeps some statistics on the back end of this too, to see if, how much intervention did the virtual agent save you. Atlassian states it can save up to 40% of ticket cost. I have no way of verifying that, but even 5% would be huge. And it's included and it's free. And of course, you can turn on or off the AI. But let's run this one more time. So I'm going to do the same thing again. And it should give me the same question. I mentioned it was in beta, right? There's a chance I copied a control character or something I didn't like. Okay, well, again, it's still in beta. If I had chosen VPN before, it would have opened a ticket for me and given me a link to the ticket. So I'll try it one more time with refreshing the page. If not, we will just move on. Yeah, I'm going to move on. Now let's pretend instead of being a customer, I'm an agent. And I come in the morning and I sit down. This is where my day starts. I have the stuff I've been in recently in projects. I have my main work area. Over here on the left, I have all the navigation to get through stuff, right? So this is new, this layout. I'm not even 100% used to it yet, but I'm getting there. But basically, I have my queues, and queues are just saved searches. So you can see I default to the all open tickets. And I can see the 2 tickets that most recently came in. So let's look at this one where the user was having a problem with their computer. Now, Atlassian AI has been embedded throughout the tool. And Atlassian AI is something you can completely turn on or turn off, but it's using ChatGPT's commercial license to find relevant information and to summarize information in your system. It is 100% set up to not take any of your data and have it leave your instance. It can only bring in outside information and analyze the information inside. Now, I'm going to just hide that bit. So starting out, I can see this ticket is in waiting for support. It's in the initial status. I can see the SLA information here. And then I can see some relevant information down the side. One of the things I like about the Atlassian toolset is they don't force you to use the layout that comes out of the box. At any time, I can go to one of these fields and I can just pin it. And it'll move up into my pin field section. Or I can unpin it and it'll move back down. And then fields that aren't filled out end up down on this more field section. If I know it's down here, I can use it and fill it out as I'm troubleshooting the ticket. But something that doesn't have data goes down there. So it's not at all displaying stuff that's irrelevant, where you get in a lot of cases. I'm going to do a quick status check. Something beeped and I don't know what it was. Can you guys all still hear me?
Yes, I can see your screen and hear you, and I don't see any questions in the chat yet either.
Great, thanks. All right, so to start working this ticket as an agent, I can go ahead and just grab it, move it to in progress. I'll assign it to me right now. It's assigned to Emma. I can say working on it. Now you'll notice there's respond to customer and internal comment. Respond to customer, anything I put in here will automatically be emailed to the customer. Internal, it would not be emailed to the customer. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can see that there's actually some suggested knowledge articles over here. And well, the fan's making noise, so we're going to share this power supply troubleshooting issue with them. And Atlassian also has something called canned responses. So I can click on canned responses here. And I haven't set any up in here, but I'm going to set one up quick just to show you how to do it and how easy it is. So I'll name this knowledge article. And I can say, hey, and then I can turn the variable, say the person who reported this. The attached knowledge article should help you out. You can never type during these demos. And I can just create it, and now I can pretty easily insert it. You notice it puts it ahead of the knowledge article that I linked in here. And now it's going to automatically send that link out to the person. And I can just go ahead and close the ticket. Now you'll notice that the options here changed. from when I send it to working in progress. And that's because JSM has something called workflows. And workflows just dictate the path of the ticket, and they also let us control behavior of people and make fields required at certain places. So when I was waiting for support, I could have gone to any of these other places, but in progress, I can only go like 3 places. And every one of these things in here has properties and functions we can put on them, and it's actually quite powerful. So now when I put this in resolved, I'm gonna go ahead and hit resolve this issue, and it's not gonna let me because I didn't fill out what is now a required field. And we could make any number of those on this thing. Put a final response to the customer here, and we'll go ahead and resolve the issue. So working a ticket like that, pretty easy to do. Let's go look at a more complex kind of ticket though, that is like a real world kind of ticket. And this comes out of an actual customer example onboarding people. So we had a government customer that when they first onboarded a person, they had a set of requirements. The person had to go through their HR sensitivity training and their IT security training just for compliance reasons. So we had to fill out some information about the user, what office are they going to be, what kind of job do they have, very standard kind of onboarding tasks. Just filling this out quick. And what kind of equipment do they need? Just standard. Put their manager in here. I'll put Adam Miro. And I'll just say standard hire. And I would put this ticket in. My HR agents would be notified the ticket came in. They could go work the ticket. And as they go in and work the ticket and work with the new employee, they would have them go through the sensitivity training and the IT security training. And once that's done, all they really need to do is go flip this switch to yes. You notice I'm not saving anywhere. There's no save button. Everything auto saves. It's really nice because most of the software I've worked with in the past did not do that. Now, much like other platforms, JSM has a pretty powerful automation engine on the background. And there's an automation that's running right now, probably should be done running, that's creating additional linked tickets. So give it a couple seconds, go ahead and hit refresh. And now I've got a ticket in the facilities project to get a new physical workspace for this Morgan Smith. We have IT security needs to create accounts, IT hardware needs to create a laptop, and IT telephony needs to have a cell phone. As the HR agent, I can keep an eye on these. I'm able to see when they're closed, or I can close them. Maybe facilities can't work the ticket because they're out in the boat, but they call me and say, hey, we got the new desk set up. I can simply go to this ticket and mark it as resolved. It's done. Or the person working it could mark it as resolved. And now we'll have a strike through. We can set up rules to prevent the parent from closing until the children are closed. I'm not going to work through all of these tickets because I think the concept is very easy to understand and we have a lot of other stuff to get through. So in these real life scenarios where we have complex multi-step processes, it's really easy to set up these automations. If we take a look at that real quick, here's my automation. This little bar is in the way all the time. And these automations are easy to understand, like when the value for security training changes is what the trigger is. Only run this if it changes to yes. I'll come back to this step in a second. As you can see, it then creates tickets in those other projects and links them. It repeats this 4 times, one for each one. The actual customer we worked with had 13 of them, I think, with dependencies. And then at the very end, we set what's called an issue property or work item property. And we just set this value to yes. And that's what I was checking here. And all this does is prevent this from running twice ever. If somebody accidentally fat fingered the yes and then switched it back to no and then switched it back to yes, I wouldn't get 8 tasks. It would only ever run once. So we have some metadata kind of features that we can do around these. All right, I'm trying to get through everything over on this left side, and we've gotten through like 2 things. So we're going to move on, go back to our original project over here, get rid of this onboarding request, and start to take a look at some of these other things down the side. So I can view, I mentioned before, the queues are just saved searches. We can configure this. So I can do view all queues. I can also do views. If you are used to working in something like Jira software or any Kanban based tool, you can work in that format in JSM as well. You don't have to sit here and work in that last view I told you. You can go grab these tickets for whatever. I can click on them if I want to see the detail, but I could move this over to in progress and work in this Kanban format, assign it to myself, and just hit start progress. And some people prefer this format, and it's really nice. But then again, some people are in meetings, right? All the time. And maybe there's a message that was sent in chat like, I need help. So if you're working in teams, you can take any kind of comment, whether it's in a team or a private message. And there's a connector for JSM. I can go create issue in Jira. I will have a few more options than most people ever see. It's my site. I'm saying create a task. And now I can just hit create. It took the body of the message, and now it's creating my JSM issue. And if I go back into the other view of JSM, we'll see it should be right in. So you can see my new request did show up in there. All right. Moving on down, JSM does follow the standard of ITIL. So when we create things can be any number of things, but we have service requests, incidents, problems, changes, and then we have service requests with approvals and a couple of custom types, right? Like employee setup, an access request, or a task. So if I want to see all current incidents, I can view the queues for that. I can look at open incidents. And you'll notice I pre-created some in here. We're having a bunch of Outlook issues today. So I'm going to create another incident here. So you can see it's set to incident in my work type. And we're going to call this the parent major incident. Defected service, we're going to say it's infrastructure because it's our email. Our details are going here. And once I create this issue, I can go ahead and view it. And I get a little slider over on the right side. And by clicking this, it becomes a major incident. We can put permissions around this, but once I've done that, if I want to link other, issues that are out there, grab a couple of these. I now have this parent, issue. I could link any number of issues. I'm just going to do 2 for the purposes of this demonstration. So we figure out that there's a problem with hardware. We go ahead and fix it. So we're going to move this to in progress. The work progresses. And once I get this to the end, very easily set it up just to close out all the children tickets and copy the resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and resolve this, say hardware failure. And I'm not really going to put a comment in here. And I hit resolve. Again, an automation is running on the back end. This should take 3 to 5 seconds. I'll refresh this, and it'll close out those child records. So you can see these are now completed as well. That's a huge time saver for us. I've built that same functionality in other systems, in both BMC Remedy and Sharewell, a couple others. And it was much more difficult in those. It just depended on how you could step through things. In here, it's very, very simple to do. So we've created a major incident. We've created a service request where somebody just needed help. We had those child incidents. They're easy to understand. Let's go look at a change, because in change, I can leverage some of the other tools that are included with JSM. So one of the things included with JSM is, of course, a knowledge base. It's a basic version of Atlassian's Confluence. They refer to it as the free knowledge base included with JSM. You're given one admin license, but then any user of JSM who is licensed has the ability to create knowledge articles. And we can use those in different ways. We saw how knowledge article was used for creating or for assisting a user, and also the virtual agent can pull them back. But what if we create a change request? So let's go do that. My change in here, change type is just going to be standard change. So scroll to the bottom, I'll find request to change. And the example I do quite often is quarterly server patching, because a lot of companies do that. We'll just say Q3 2025. So it's going to be our infrastructure services again. Change type, this is a normal planned change. Impact, it's significant and large. We're updating a lot of servers. There's going to be downtime. Risk, it's medium. We do this quite often, but there's always some unknowns. And the reason is maintenance. Now, I might not have all of this other information right in the beginning. I can create the change without all of that. It's quite common in companies to have the framework of the change so you can get the change number and start the approval process. I would then later on come back here and put in this information. In this case, I'm going to say see attached for all three of these. And again, instead of linking a work item, I can link Confluence content. So when I have knowledge articles, I can go ahead and grab my Patrick rollback plan and link it. And then search for my other couple ones here. My patching plan, and then my test plan. Trying to group rid of these pop-ups. This is a relatively new instance of what's called a One Atlassian demo environment. And they always give you helpful hints when an instance is new, and it's kind of annoying, actually. So now I've got my plans attached. You can actually go look at these. So you can see this is just all the stuff I have in here. So I can leverage Confluence both as a documentation repository and as a knowledge article source. So I'll get the other stuff in here. So I'll put my plan start date and time. I'm not going to fill all of that out. To actually click the right thing. And then I could send it for approval. So I'll say it's ready for approval. I mentioned earlier that we have workflows in JSM, and workflows control changes as well. So in this workflow, this authorized status has properties on it. It's got a checkbox that says, yes, I'm an approval step, and here are the approvers and how to find them, which usually it looks at a field in the change, and that field is usually tied to the service. Since this is a demo system, I can approve my own things. You wouldn't normally be able to do that. I'll go ahead and approve this, and you'll see it'll automatically move to the next status. And then when the implementation time came around, I could go ahead and work the ticket. I'm going to leave that there for now because we've got about 25 minutes left and a few more things to get through. But I want to say one more thing about the knowledge base, which is it is heavily infused with AI as well. Again, that can be turned off, but all of these articles in here were written with AI. So if I go create article, I can do keyboard troubleshooting. I go through /AI. I can say write an article to troubleshoot a non-working keyboard. I'm not going to actually publish this because I think this already exists in here. So now it is analyzing what it has access to write this article and gives you a bunch of things you can check. And what's interesting is I've been demoing this for about a year, this AI feature. I use this example almost every time, and it's different every time I do it. It's getting slightly better every time. So if I wanted to, I could then publish this article. More than likely, I would edit it first, maybe add some screenshots, whatever, or pictures if relevant. And then I could publish it and it'd be available to users in the portal or agents working tickets. I can restrict some knowledge articles so they can only be seen by agents, of course, but that is, we're going to move on from knowledge here. So moving down my left side, we've talked about incidents, changes, service requests. We haven't talked about problems. I'm going to mostly skip over problem management. Usually, if your organization does problem management, you'll know that it's just the process of trying to find the root cause of either a major outage or a common recurring problem like a certain model of laptop always goes bad. Atlassian supports that. We can just create at any point a problem in here. And I could link things to it and have them auto close just like the other things. But again, problem management is more of a discipline outside of the tool anyway. So, all right. So moving down the list of things we have in here. The directory is just a list of all the customers who are in this project. Most of that is typically governed by Atlassian Guard. Atlassian Guard is a optional add-on product. It's inexpensive and it allows you to do single sign-on, like true single sign-on. And it allows you to manage all of this kind of stuff using Azure or AD or Okta groups. So channels, this is just all of the ways that we can receive tickets, right? So I can email tickets in. I have a portal. We can put widgets into web pages. Chat is turned off right now, but that's basically managed through Teams or Slack. So if I go look at my email address over here, and I go find my email, I'll do a new email. I'm gonna do that twice actually. So I can send in an email request and it'll of course show up in my queues. So if I go back to it, just do all open tickets, it should show up in here. Yeah, it'll show up here in a couple seconds. I think it pulls every minute, but eventually it would show up in this list of tickets. Since that's not different than working any other ticket, I'm going to move on down this list to a couple other things. You'll notice I have operations. Operations encompasses a bunch of things. Laura touched on this in the beginning. JSM had a standalone product called OpsGenie. That was an on-call platform to manage a team on-call schedules and integrated with a whole bunch of different apps to create for monitoring and creating alerts. An alert could come in, it'd create a JSM ticket and would notify the on-call team. And that all is found under this operations menus. And we'll just do a simple demo of it. Now, the most simple integration that exists is, of course, email. So I've got some monitoring system out there, and it notices that there's an outage, and it's going to send it an email. That would be automated, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and just send a manual one into this email address. Just say outage detected. So now, in my alerts, I should see give it another second or two. Yeah, so you'll see my email has now come in. I click on this. You can see it has created a JSM ticket. You can go to that ticket. And now there's rules between JSM and the alerts. It would have notified the on-call team that was responsible for this. There's rules around that in the back end. But when I update this ticket, it will mark the alert as acknowledged. So move it as work in progress. And this can take a couple seconds, but this would eventually just go to acknowledged. So I don't want to burn time because we don't have a lot of time left here. So there is a two-way integration out of the box between the alerts and JSM. An alert can create a ticket, or a ticket can create an alert. It can go either way. And there is a lot of functionality inside of this alert management system. I could spend probably 3 hours just demoing stuff in here. But the takeaway that is most important for this demo is if you have an existing alert management on-call kind of thing, like PagerDuty, or you're paying for Opsgenie, as Laura stated, you would no longer have to pay for those. You could replace them with what's included inside JSM. All right, now, there's a few things I have skipped over on this left side. First of all, filters. So filters are just a way of searching, right? I can get all of my results. I can do a basic kind of filter where I'm just using drop downs. I can do something called JQL, which is, Jira query language. And what's really nice, I just realized I don't know where the button moved to. So as a partner, it is really nice that Atlassian is rolling out new features all the time. I just switched to this view, like I mentioned in the beginning, and I don't know where the filter subscription button has gone. So that's kind of funny. But once I get a filter set up to give me all of the issues, I can then export them if I want to. I could throw them out to CSV or whatever. If I go take a look at a different one, I can see all of the issues. I can change the sort order or any of this kind of stuff. Then we have dashboards, which I also kind of skipped over on purpose. Dashboards, very easy to understand, of course, because they're dashboards. So we'll just go look at the default one. Every one of these gadgets in here can be collapsed or expanded. So I can make this full screen if I'm only interested in this. If I'm not interested in it at all, I can hide it. I've never trained a customer on how to create dashboards. I've set up meetings to do it, but every customer I've worked with, the most recent one, by the time I got to the meeting with the manager, she had already figured out how to do it. I didn't ever get through it. These are very easy to understand. It can use a whole bunch of saved queries on the back end. We can drill down into any of these, of course, and it would take us into the issue navigator. So if I want to look at all these things. So dashboards, again, usually a preferred way that customers go and look through data and keep informed of what's happening in the company. See, we're at 145. I'm going to talk about assets and teams quickly, and then we're going to look at a little bit of the back end stuff. Not too much, but so asset management is included with JSM. Inside asset management, we have schemas, which are pretty easy to understand. They're just logical groupings of things we want to track. Quite often, that's hardware assets. So you can see in this IT employee asset schema, I've got a catalog. So these are the things that we support, not actual assets. And then we have our actual hardware. So if I go look at laptops, I can see the current status of this laptop. I can see it's assigned to Mitch Davis, various information about it. And every one of these has an object graph, and it shows us how things are related in here. We can also see if there's been tickets opened against this recently. So right now, there's no tickets that are linked to this. I don't think this one has had anything attached to it ever, but let's just check. But if a ticket had been opened against a piece of hardware, there would be a history of it in here. How do we actually put information into the asset schema? There's a couple different ways. Of course, we could do an import, a simple import of like CSV file. More frequently, we do an integration with something like SCCM or Intune to pull asset data in. We can do API integrations. If you buy from like Dell or CDW, they are able to do an API showing everything that you have purchased and do regular updates on those with any of those sources. And asset management includes something called asset discovery, which is a basic asset tool that can scan your network by IP range and then bring this information into here. And it actually gets quite a bit of information. In our company instance of this, you're going to see the old interface in here for navigation. It's a little bit different. So you'll notice everything's across the top in this one. But if I go into assets in here and I look, you can see there's actually quite a bit of information in here. So all these servers that are populated, a lot of information. That one. Take a look at a different schema too. So this is actually the one I intended to go to. This is the asset discovery module running against our network and pulling all this information back. So you can see, for example, for hosts, we've got a bunch of different servers. Big Dog is a virtual server that's running a number of other VMs. If I look at the object graph on here, I'll see all of the things that are related to it. And you can see there's quite a bit of information that's included in here as far as physical drives and, you know, machine specs and all of that kind of stuff. So the asset scanning that's included with JSM is actually pretty good. It's not as good as the commercial platforms like SCCM and Intune, of course. Those are enterprise tools that are pretty much the cream of the crop for that kind of thing. I got through quite a bit. We've got about 10 minutes left. Do you remember when I put in the bug report ticket? I want to show how easy it was to build this, right? So when I have this bug report ticket, I have what's called the request type. We've got the form that was on here. When I go into the backend on here and I want to create stuff, there are a ton of templates that are included with JSM. So when I go and I look at, let's say I want to create a new request type. In this case, I created my bug report. I can do create request type. I can do create from template. And there's 89 templates in here. And if I click on one of these, you know, some of them are generic, some are more specific. So creating the request type itself, very easy. I can select this. If I hit add, it will now be in there. But these are simple, right? So we have something else in JSM called forms, and forms get much more specific. And there are hundreds of these templates in here. This number goes up pretty much every time I come in here. So we have, if I go look at the ones for IT, we can have, you know, a much better layout, a lot more information. So I could select this one. And now it's in my system. I can edit whatever I want to in here. Maybe I want to change the labels or whatever. But then all I have to do to have it show up in the portal is attach it to a request type that I've defined before I did this. So now if I check this box, this form is always going to show up on the portal for people. And that's why I did the report a bug one. For me to add that report a bug form and the request type, I did that in about less than 5 minutes. We can add things very, very quickly in JSM. It's really nice. But those are not the only templates we have. And not save these changes. You remember I said we have a lot of different projects? Well, we have project templates as well. So if you bought JSM, you put it in your help desk, everything's fine, and your HR people are like, can we use that? They would need licenses, of course, but you wouldn't have to do a whole huge giant rollout. You could go grab the HR service management template, could do, make it a company managed project, which we recommend. I'm going to delete this after we get done, so I'll call this HR2. See what kind of team this is, human resources. And now it's creating the project. That's not just creating an empty shell. It's creating a whole bunch of default request types and forms and some automations and things. So I could get another group up and running very, very quickly when we start talking about enterprise service management and bringing additional people in, right? So now it's asking me what kind of request templates do I want? So I'm going to look at HR and I can select and add these, right? So you can see I added quite a few of these that come out of the typical HR, and I can continue to it. And now I have all this stuff and it's all in here. And the portal's ready to go. If I go look at the channels and self-service and look at the portal for this new project, it's out there. It's completely live. I somehow unmuted my mic on this computer. My audio's on one computer and I'm presenting from another, so I was getting feedback there for a second. My apologies. So if I go to that portal, just completely threw myself off by doing that, sorry. Let's copy that link again. So this HR2 portal, everything is ready to go. Now, of course, in the real world, you wouldn't have a perfect system for your HR people. You're gonna have to tweak some of this stuff, but it gives you such a jump ahead of where you would have to be. For example, when I was working in Sharewell, to create a new major business object, which is kind of be the equivalent of creating a project, was a ton of work. You had to define the screens and the forms and all the kind of stuff. And it was many hours to get a basic setup. And here you just have templates for everything. It's very convenient. I think I will stop there. Our normal demos can run anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, and I haven't seen any questions. I think I saw a couple familiar names though. So let me take a look. Yeah, so it looks like Laura answered that one. So there is a migration path right now. We're going through this with a customer right now. And what ends up happening, if you have a standalone Opsgenie, you put in a ticket with Atlassian, you say, I'm ready to migrate, and they, verify who you are and a couple other things. They set a date for the migration. Your old one stays live, and you can just turn on the new integrations on the JSM side as you turn off the ones on the Opsgenie side. And then when you get all done testing and switching over, there's literally a big button you click that says put Opsgenie into read-only mode. You have 120 days of it just sitting there so you can pull whatever data you want or whatever, and then eventually it goes away. So, are there any other questions out there?
All right, we'll keep the line open for another minute just to allow anyone who has a question time to type that in. As I mentioned, we did record this session, so I'll be happy to email it out to everyone. If you'd like, as a follow-on, a personalized demonstration for your team, feel free to reply back to that email that I'm sending out and let me know. We'd be happy to coordinate one-on-one time with your team, or if you want to do a deeper dive into any of the functionality, we're happy to do that as well. We are also happy to provide if you're planning a migration project, we're happy to provide software pricing if you'd like to see what the solution would cost, or if you're interested in exploring migration services, happy to schedule a scoping call to talk through what a migration might look like and give you an understanding of timeline and budget for that as well. With that, I don't see any other questions that have rolled in, so I'm going to assume we covered everything for today, but I'd like to thank you for joining us. Please let us know if we can help you with next steps as you consider Jira Service Management as an option from your team. Thanks for your time today. Have a great afternoon, everyone.